Yeah.
All right, we are live. Thank you for everybody for coming to the Facilities Committee meeting here on March 27th?
Finance committee.
Finance Committee meeting, thank you. I get those backwards all the time, so. All right, well, we're gonna look at some tuition rates. Amy has been diligently working on these with Mr. Flan. And I'm just gonna let you take it away here.
Okay, I handed out a sheet, and on the first page is what our tuition rates were in 2021-22 school year. And it shows that we took in, for participation fees of $23,852. Then we went to this year and we increased rates up, roughly $40 if you're the 4-year-old. So that went up. We increased our participation to $30,690. And so this year, our proposal for tuition would be again to raise the 4-year-olds to $160. That would be a $40 rate increase for them. And then if you go to the 3s, it would be an additional $10 each. And we did increase busing by $5 across the board, just because the cost of busing hasn't gone up for us as well. So that brings us to, and these are based on our anticipated enrollment numbers. So that puts us at participation fees of $39,620, so roughly a $9,000 net gain on participation dollars. So with that being said, without having the new budget and numbers come in from the state of what our funding and things are going to be, looks like this year we're going to have a deficit of around $11,000, which is about
This year.
this year.
Is it with or without this?
This will be for next year. So next year, it would put us down to, if our participation numbers, we'd be within a couple $1,000s. So, and we're gonna, with that, so I said 11,000 or roughly, I'm going to be looking around and working on trying to move some few things. One, that we can get our numbers down so that we can either put them towards ESSER funds, looking for additional funding, moving a few things into the general fund itself, that don't necessarily have to be coded here, but in an essence of keeping things that way, it'll show a little bit more consistent across. There's a few things that I noticed that didn't seem consistent, like we have a grant coming in for summer preschool. Well, some of that was coded into our community ed fund, and some was coded into our general ed fund, and I think it all should be just coded together. So I'm gonna fix that for this summer. So that'll help create a more even keel amongst our numbers. So with that, again, being said, I still think we have to contribute some out of our general fund, probably in the around 5,000 or less each year at this point with tuition, because we can't raise it enough to get zero, and not knowing numbers and participation for next year, we're probably going to be looking at a $5,000 general fund contribution next year versus 10, 15, 20, 30,000.
And that would be along with the $67,000
Correct.
transfer annually
Yeah.
to cover up the past deficits.
Yeah.
Which, the way Waltz is handing out money right now,
Right.
the money might be there this year to write the whole thing off.
Right. And then we can, and then we know, and I think as we do our budget, we'll be able to kind of have an idea and know what we're going to have to take from the general fund every year instead of, we can code things there. It doesn't have to go specifically to ECFE. There's certain things that we can move around.
My question is, why is this in the community ed budget? I mean, it almost should be a part of the general fund.
I agree.
And because community ed fund was set up to make sure the facilities was being used by the whole community and those kind of,
Right.
rec programs and those kind of things. And this is an education program that should be part of the general fund.
I agree. And if we were looking, and Mr. Flynn and I were looking today too, at our ECFE is our Monday night program. It's our teachers go into daycares and help promote education within the daycares and some other different community funding, which is much more on a sliding basis. So that is where we have a little more loss than we do in our preschool. So a little more of our loss is coming on the early childhood side versus the preschool side, which is getting closer to being zero. So if that makes any sense.
Can we use some of those extra funds for the next couple of years to level it off a little bit?
That's why I'm hoping to recode some this year, so we won't have such a big deficit, but I didn't have enough time with board and payroll and everything to get dug that deep yet.
But can we use that?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In certain
Yeah.
circumstances, yeah.
We
Yeah.
should be, includes education.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll be able to get through next year. After
Right,
that,
that's
extra
what I
funds are
mean.
gone, but
Right.
Yeah.
But at least to the next couple of years, kind of,
And
Yeah.
then
some of that
still
over.
implement this up as it goes too.
Right.
Right.
So it's not so drastic.
yeah, and that's why we looked at this year compared to, that's why we went to the 160 recommended tuition rate for AMP. The 4-year-olds, they're our biggest group of kids. They have the highest rate. They're here more often. And that'll make the biggest impact to help not deficit spend in our preschool program. So that's what I have.
So are we okay making, do you have it just listed exactly, this goes to this goes to this, or we have to look at?
For this, or? What do you mean?
So the full tuition for Monday, Wednesday, threes, it goes from 80 to 90, so that's a $10.
Oh, if you look at the sorry, I didn't put the actual dollar amount, but if you look to this year, full was 120, we're now 160. So that's up 40. We did go up 30 for the reduced, 20. It doesn't really matter for the free busing, we went up $10 because the free comes out of would be our general fund anyways, or our Pathways 2 grant. So the biggest one we're looking at is full, reduced prices. So we look at Monday, Wednesday threes, that went up $10 for full, $10 for reduced, and $5 for busing.
Has this pathway grant increased every year, or is it staying the same? Or
It has pretty much stayed the same.
It's been the same every year since I've been here, so that's 7 years.
And where does that come from, pathway?
The state.
State.
So we just applied, we haven't heard what we got for this next year, so we just did that application about a month ago.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Plan and I did another, helped him write another grant today to help get our summer preschool program completely paid for, so we won't have to pay for that either.
How come the threes went from 9 months this year to 8 months?
So that was, I just noticed that myself, Tracy, looking at the one I've got online. It should be 9.
Oh, okay.
I was copying and pasting stuff and I
Oh,
just
yeah.
missed that.
Okay.
So if you charge 9 months,
Yep,
the total revenue actually comes out to 40,905
okay.
at the bottom.
40,905.
Yep,
So it's actually about just over $10,000.
yep. So I went through and switched them all and it recalculated and that's what it
Okay.
comes up to on the digital.
And I just wanted to mention that the Pathway 2 grant, it used to be yearly that we applied, but now we get it every 2 years. So like we applied this year, but we won't have to apply next year. We'll get
You
2
get
years.
it.
later.
2 years of funding.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it changed. It used to be yearly and now
Okay.
they've been giving us it every 2
Is the
years.
bucket of grants still pretty full or has it decreased?
It's always 37,500 per year. For our school district, I guess I shouldn't say that every school district gets that, but.
Okay.
What do they base that on? That number?
Trying to think when we filled that out.
don't
I guess
remember.
probably a little
Number of
bit on.
students?
I think it's an overall enrollment.
Yeah, we looked at the per pupil cost and probably just, I'm assuming like some of it's like free and reduced lunch, kind of where we fall as far as other school districts.
Because there are some districts that don't get it.
What we're gonna use it for.
So what is the
So-
cutoff for the reduced? Like, when they say, okay, you get reduced rate, what is that cutoff? Like, it goes by
It's based on that
Income.
application.
the family
Yeah,
income.
the free
Yeah,
and reduced lunch form.
Yeah,
that they
Just
fill out.
basically.
Yeah, so basically Margaret Fleming is in charge of that now. She submits everybody's, they fill out a form, everybody's income. So they can choose not to fill it out, however, we really encourage them to. because some families just think they're not gonna qualify. COVID has skewed a lot of that though, a little bit, or maybe in a better way, but, people, if they got some sort of support, I know are falling under like reduced and free, which they normally probably wouldn't, so.
We
That's
really
also-
do. And it's more than just, getting programs like this. There's a lot of funding that's attached to those free and reduced lunch forms
Yeah,
that
definitely.
has nothing to do with this. So
Yeah, because even United
nothing to do
Way,
with lunch.
It should
Yeah.
just be educational benefits.
We,
Yeah.
I think it was my second year here, I had Lindsay figure out that we were just at the high school, because fewer people at the high school level tend to fill out those forms. We figured we were losing about $80,000.
because they don't have to fill them out, but.
And that was just based on, this is how many kids in the elementary school are getting it, and then we're getting that much less at the high school. So making the assumption that it's gonna be about the same.
What are they gonna do when they go to the universal free lunch?
Yeah, we could run
That's
into that
what-
next year because of that.
What?
We could be into that situation next year because of the free lunches next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out ways to get people to fill that out because we can't require it.
And that's for everybody. Doesn't matter where you are,
Student wise, yep.
right?
Yep.
I mean, income wise.
Yep,
Yeah. So that would help with cost too.
But not everybody likes to fill out their income.
I
Yeah.
know, but it's.
And
People don't
I
like to tell
understand.
everybody what they're making, and I
They're
don't blame
looking
them.
at, they've some other ways that I've heard them talking about using the countywide numbers, and that's what they did during COVID, I believe. Isn't that what they?
I just know the Minnesota State High School League uses it to calculate their school enrollment because apparently in their eyes, poor kids aren't as good athletes as wealthier kids, which is a whole other issue. But they said, well, according to what I heard from the high school league is they get most of that directly from the state without the forms even coming in. They have other avenues that they can pull that data from. So my hope is that now that we're going to universal free lunch, that they can remove this somehow.
Because it seems irrelevant at this point. Why would you even need them if it's everybody
Well,
gets
my
it?
question.
Yeah. It seems to me you should be able to use the census data
Yeah,
Right.
and just go with that.
yeah, you're a kid.
Either that or they're certainly gonna have to change the name of the form.
Yeah.
To something that implies more school funding, so people
Right.
hopefully will complete it, realizing that it's money for their
It
school
does say, I
outside of
think on
just
it, I
lunch.
think it says educational benefits on it.
I also do not
But we
think
call
that
it free
people realize that it's very limited who can even see that information.
I
on
don't
them
see it.
forms. No, it's Margaret and myself usually are the only ones that ever see them.
We'll just have to educate them. I have a question for you. So do you have like the projected costs for, this program for next year?
Not yet, we're just working through that. Now, I'm guesstimating going off currently what we have and what we've already spent this year. I'm kind of going off that to kind of guesstimate what it's gonna be, but we're still doing revised budget for this year, and we haven't got numbers from the state of what our funding's gonna be for next year yet, so.
Do we have like the actual cost for this year, year to date so far?
Year to date, total cost is. Give me 1 second. $50,652. For school readiness, 50,652. Sorry.
So is this built with an escalating
It is
cost
not
basis?
yet, no.
Oh.
We're kind of been looking at what, Derek and I looked at what, Rhode Island's been charging. And right now we're right in there with the same, with pretty much what they've been charging. And that's kind of what we're gonna have to look at, going forward and see where things at. And also see where the government goes about funding, preschool programs. I know that's still not off the table yet, so. And any additional funding they put towards the program would be beneficial.
So at this point, this would put us at 160 next year, Play Island's 155 right now, assuming they have some increase. We'd be comparable, maybe slightly under, slightly over, but
all those other programs are going to have increases too. So
Yeah.
it's-
That was kind of how this initially came up with because the community ed board usually makes a recommendation on this. And they wanted the feedback from the school of what the financial goal is for this, whether it's self-sustaining or what the acceptable loss is, so. But the original proposal was a incremental percentage increase every year. It has to be reapproved every spring. So we can't just say we're gonna do 3% a year. It would still have to be voted on with that new number by the board every year.
Which is also a good way to keep track of costs with escalating costs on everything. It's a good way to keep it in check too.
Do they do any fundraising?
They do popcorn, right?
This year we did a Popcornopolis, but that just goes into our booster account and helps to kind of, so we don't have to do as much supplies, like we update materials, anything that we need throughout the year. Yeah, learning materials. Things like that.
It's fantastic popcorn.
Yeah, I have some left over.
They
There's
should make
more.
some samples up.
Yeah.
That always sells better.
I did actually do that at the parent meeting. I'm like, no, this is what we're gonna be selling, just so you know. Yeah. But we just do the one fundraiser. We used to do a different one and it had frozen food, so that was just too complicated, so. If there's anything else that would give us more profit, I would look into that too, so.
It was a good fundraiser though.
Yeah. And it lasts forever, popcorn, so.
Any other questions?
Are we comfortable recommending this to the board?
I am.
Okay, I'll send something out. We're gonna send out the calendar also, and then we'll look at approving this in April.
And I'll have a community ed board meeting and I'll have this discussion with them because that just helps get more people informed of what's going on and get it out to the community, so.
All right. Thank you very much. Got some time. I hope this is how the board meeting goes too.
Especially the last one.
It was so long.
Oh, that was-